Hey guys, so I just wanted to talk about mock meats, alternative meats really quickly. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about like tofu or tempeh, I'm talking about the things that are supposed to mimic meat, right? Like the quote unquote fake meats that you would buy in the store, the like fake sausages and hot dogs and chicken tenders, those types of things. I like tofu too. I like tempeh, but man, I used to like tempeh, but it's just too bitter for me. And I find that even with boiling it first before, boiling it, letting it cool, marinating it, all of that, I still taste that weird kind of bitter taste. But yeah, I do like tofu. I like homemade, like seitan. I think I showed a picture recently making this. It looked more like a chicken fried steak, actually, because I didn't use any sort of, it's basically caramel coloring to give it like the color of steak. And I was like, I don't really need that in it. So it had more of like a chicken fried steak kind of look, but it was really good. It's from that cookbook I've mentioned before, the vegan slow cooker. So yeah, I like homemade seitan as well. Obviously a lot more work, but I wanted to talk specifically about the mock, again, sausages and beef crumbles and stuff like that you would find in the store, because often many of you guys are like, why do you eat these foods? You can just eat beans and rice and vegetables. Like, what is even the point of these? First, obviously, the point for a lot of people is to find foods that mimic the foods that they love, right? If you really love like a beef stew, trying to make that with beans, it's not going to be a beef stew, right? But trying to make it with like the Gardein beef tips, what do they call them? Home style beef tips or something like that, something that is supposed to mimic like chunks of beef, is probably going to be more satisfying to you and give you that like, ooh, I'm eating beef stew kind of feeling. But I think when people ask me, because I think a lot of people know that I've been vegan for a while. I mean, obviously I have a vegan channel. I've had a vegan channel for a long time. My point is, I think people think of mock meats as like only a transition food, right? Like you use them when you're just going vegan or you're just going vegetarian, and then you give them up and then you just eat more of a whole food plant-based thing focused on beans and grains and fresh fruits, that sort of thing. So, to the point of the video, why I eat mock meats. Number one, I think obvious, is they're tasty. Sometimes I do make things specifically that are supposed to mimic a certain dish. Again, I shared a kind of sausage and bean thing because I just all of a sudden was really, really wanting my mom's like sausage, bean, and rice dish that she used to make all the time, and I loved it so much. It's like, man, I want that, but I don't, yeah, I can make beans and rice, but it's not the same. It's not the same without those little like circles of sausage, right? It's just not. So I tried it with the tofurkey kielbasa and I really like it. It's really good. Oh my God, I want some of that right now. Actually, it's super delicious and like there's so much protein in it. It's so hearty. I'll get to that more in a moment. And like I mentioned, using the Gardein little beef tips or whatever they're called to make a beef stew. I've done that too recently. So good. Again, another thing that my mom would make that I was like, man, yeah, that was yummy. Like, I wonder if I can make a good beef stew, because honestly, when I went vegan, those things didn't exist. Like, there weren't good mock meats. And of course, I was doing the whole raw thing. I think I've just, without even thinking about it, just assumed like, yeah, I can't make like sausage and beans. Yeah, I can't make a beef stew or something. And then I was like, oh wait, I totally can. Hooray! Progress! But yeah, mock meats are really tasty. Some of them, I've mentioned a couple, the tofurkey kielbasa. I love that stuff. It's so delicious to me. Again, I've said before, I don't think no one's going to be fooled. No one's going to think that it's actually sausage, but I love the taste. I love the garlicky flavor of it. It's really yummy. Again, I love the Gardein beefless tips or whatever, like in a beef stew. I love, again, tofurkey. I love many of their deli slices. My favorite is the roast beef. I have not had those in forever because I can't find those here. Beyond Meat griller strips, those are super tasty. The fake chicken strips, I really like those in things like a fettuccine alfredo to give it a bit of protein, a wrap with the tortilla and like some sort of like Caesar dressing or something. Ooh, that's really good. The field roast celebration roast, I think I have a video talking about that. That one was surprisingly really tasty. It's super flavorful. The texture is really good. It's supposed to have like a stuffing in the middle, but there's no like difference in texture between the like the meat part and the stuffing part. So I don't know, but it tastes really good. Again, Beyond Meat, their crumbles, really, really like their crumbles. I can never find their original anymore at our store, so we always get the feisty ones, but either way, they taste really good. We really like to make tacos with them. And then I guess the last one I talked about recently, the Beyond Meat sausage. I did like that sausage. I'm still well, no, we did actually go to Whole Foods today and they have it. They have the label and everything, but they don't have it in stock right now, which is good. I mean, I'm glad like people went there and just bought all of the sausage. That's great. I mean, on a personal level, I would like to try it again. But that's okay. And like I said before, I do want to see the price, because if it's better than the kielbasa, I will definitely get that more often. And it's good to have more like pea protein, because I do eat a fair amount of soy, I'm not gonna lie. So it would be nice to have a little bit more variation. The second reason I really like mock meats is because they're so easy. I have time to cook. I absolutely do. I have definitely more time than the average person to cook, even with a toddler, but I don't, because I don't want to. Like sometimes I get in the mood, and like when I was making again like the seitan, the steak stuff, and I made like a bunch of stuff from the slow cooker recipe, because some of the recipes do take more time. Like you have to, if you're making homemade seitan and all of that, like there's a lot of steps involved. And so for some reason, for like a couple weeks, I was like, yeah, I was just cooking up a storm. But most of the time, like, no, I don't. No. Point is, mock meats are easy. You know, you don't have to, if you're talking about beans, especially dry beans, if you're really trying to save money, you know, you have to soak them, and you don't have to soak them, but it cuts down on the cooking time. So soaking and then cooking them. And so if you're making something that needs cooked beans, you have to do that ahead of time and then, you know, make the soup or whatever it is that you're making with them. Tofu, unless you're using the super pressed tofu, which our Trader Joe's has been out of. It's just what? Why? We love it so much. Our regular store does have some. It has a different brand, but it's a lot more expensive. So, that sucks. But if you're usually using just the regular extra firm tofu that's like very watery, often you're going to want to press it for, I would say, most applications. You know, if you're making a stir fry or something, it really is better if you press it and get out as much of the water as you can. So all these little things in terms of protein options and, you know, adding like heartiness to dishes, it takes usually a little bit of time, unless you're opening up a can of beans or something. Whereas with mock meats, often like it's just opening the package, maybe putting it in a pan for like a minute or two with some oil, and then you're done. And it's super tasty. And it's not just like beans, or it's not just tofu. It already has some sort of flavoring in it. And it often has a lot more protein in it than beans or quinoa or some sort of whole thing that you're using. Even tofu. I mean, tofu is going to be closer. It depends on the mock meat, but if you're talking about something like the kielbasa sausages, I think one has like 20 something grams of protein. It's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, but if you're just having whole beans or quinoa or nuts or something, there's definitely going to be a lot more protein in the mock meats, which brings me to my third reason, which is protein. I get a lot of comments from people asking why I'm so obsessed with protein. I feel like I explain this in a lot of videos, so I'm sorry for people who regularly watch my videos and are sick of hearing it, but a lot of you haven't seen those videos or you're new, so this is just something that you have to do if you have a YouTube channel. You have to explain things a lot of times, so I don't know any sort of way around that, I guess. But that's why I wanted to make this video specifically, so that there's a place people can go if they're like wondering why I eat mock meat. So protein is great for me. I find that I am much more satisfied if I eat a fair amount of protein. It's interesting in like the vegan world, given that I think a lot of vegans are more geared towards, we don't have to worry about protein, and high carb is great and low fat and that sort of thing. The amount of protein that I eat is seen as like, wow, that's a lot, right? So like, you know, 70 on the low end, I would say, to 100 on the high end is seen as like, whoa, that's a lot of protein. Whereas if you go to like other circles, it's like, what? That's like barely enough, right? Not sure where I was going with that, but the point is, again, I like to aim for like the 70 to 100 because I just feel good. I just feel satisfied. I find that I can keep my weight at a good weight very easily. And I also find it easier to meet certain nutrient needs for things like zinc and other mineral needs, because typically higher protein foods are going to be good sources of those sorts of nutrients. Now, of course, you can eat a lot of protein without eating mock meats. I've done that in the past, but I find that I have to eat beans a lot. If I'm having a smoothie, gotta put beans in the smoothie, which you can actually do, and it's not bad at all. But I just find that I enjoy my food more when I can have like a pasta dish with some, again, the Beyond Meat griller strips or the kielbasa sausage that's been kind of, sauteed in some oil and it's got like a little bit of crunch on it. Like, oh man, it's way more delicious to me than having that same dish with white beans or chickpeas or something like that. And again, I like white beans, I like chickpeas, but I don't want to eat that all the time. You know what I mean? I want a little bit more variation and a little bit more deliciousness. And just to be clear, I still eat a lot of beans. I still eat a lot of legumes. I eat peanut butter every single day. When was the last time I didn't eat peanut butter for an entire day? I don't know. Typically, I eat chickpeas pretty much every day, or white beans. Those are my favorite. Sometimes I have like pinto beans or kidney beans. I rarely ever have black beans, if I'm being honest. They're not really my favorite. So yeah, protein. I like a lot of protein. Mock meats help me get protein in a very tasty and easy way. And then the last one I would say is supporting the industry. I like the fact that I am supporting mock meats, that I am supporting plant alternatives to meat. Obviously, I'm not saying that you have to do this to be vegan or anything like that, but if you do like mock meats and you can't afford them, because obviously that is a big downside, is that right now they are a lot more expensive than beans. I mean, I can get a pound of even chickpeas, which are some of the more expensive beans, for like $1.69, and that's a pound of dry beans, which is going to give you 7 cups cooked, something like that. So again, like $1.69, or I can get the Tofu kielbasa with 4 sausages for like, I think almost $5. So yeah, if you can't afford it, and again, if you like them, I'm not saying like go out and buy some mock meat that you hate just to like support the industry. You could not pay me enough to buy that Trader Joe's high protein pea burger. Again, oh my God, that was the weirdest. I can't even describe the taste. It was gross. Buying these foods, showing that there is a market for these foods, especially if it's companies that don't traditionally sell plant alternatives, right? It's not something that's like Tofurkey, that's a vegan company, Field Roast. If Tyson comes out with, which I think they are, am I making that up? I swear I read that they are coming out with some plant protein alternatives. Like, hell yeah, we should be buying those if they're good, and showing that there is a market for that stuff. I mean, as much as I complain about stuff being out of stock, like my Tofurkey kielbasa, which is totally out of stock right now, although I have my fridge. I think we have like 4 packages in there. I know, like, I'm kind of creating the problem by buying out all the kielbasa. Yeah, as much as I complain, I am happy that this stuff keeps going out of stock and that people are buying it. I hate seeing a product that's just not moving at all, right? Like I like remember the placement of the display, right? It's like, yeah, that hasn't moved in like 3 weeks. That sucks. So I guess that's it. Taste, easy, protein, supporting the industry. I guess I'll say with supporting the industry and showing other companies, especially non-vegan companies, traditionally like meat profiting companies, that like, hey, you should go into the plant-based sector, right? I do think that this is ultimately the way forward. I think it's important to advocate for veganism. Obviously, that's what I do. But until we have options that are readily available, that are relatively cheap, that are tasty, that have texture, that is really close to actual meat products, until then, it's going to be really hard to push forward and to really convince people that they can still enjoy themselves without harming animals, right? Without eating animal products. Because that's, I think, ultimately what it comes down to. It's so easy for people to convince themselves, because everyone does it, that they're not doing anything wrong. And so when they feel like it's such a big sacrifice to give up these foods that they love, it's just too easy to go like, well, my grandmother does it and she's a saint. My father eats animals and he's like the best person I know, the most honest, loving, compassionate person, you know, whatever. It's just so easy to fall back on like, well, it's normal, so it's okay. But if we remove that, like, this is a huge sacrifice by, again, having foods that are comparable in price and texture and taste and availability, then like, why? Then you would just have to be, I don't want to say a bad person, because there are some people who are going to be like, oh, it's not natural for a while. But if you're just like, no, I still want to buy the animal products because fuck it. Ugh. Like, then there's something wrong with you. But I think most people are generally good and they're trying to be good people. And I think, again, if they don't have to make what they see as this huge sacrifice, then I think most people will go, well, yeah, of course I will eat the plant alternatives. Of course I will eat the in vitro meat. I don't want to harm the animals, right? So yeah, I think that's really important. I'm not trying to say like that's the reason I eat mock meats. I'm not like being a martyr or anything. Again, my first 3 reasons are because it's easy and it's tasty and it works for me. But yeah, it is important. And I guess I will just end this by saying, if you notice the mock meats that I focus on, they're of the healthier variety. Yes, they're very, very salty, especially, I guess the kielbasa would probably be the saltiest of all of those. A lot of the tofurkey stuff is very salty, which is probably why I like it so much. But it's not like breaded and fried like some of the stuff that you can find. So I don't tend to eat a lot of the chicken tenders that are breaded. So not all of them are fried, I don't think, but they are breaded. I tend to stick to just the more plain, like sausagey type things. Oh, also smart bacon. I can't believe I forgot smart bacon. I haven't had it in a while actually, but I love that stuff. Really tasty. Also the smart dogs I really love. I know some people think they're just utter garbage, but I really like them. Also, if you've noticed, I don't go for the low protein options. There are some, what did I review? Those weird, they were like cashew based or something, and they did not taste, they weren't good anyway. There are also some rice ones I think I've seen. Again, I've never tried those. I just have no interest in those personally. There's jackfruit as well, which I am interested in because I've heard that it really does have like a meaty texture. But again, you're not really getting any protein. There's actually a Trader Joe's, I think a jackfruit curry or something that's supposed to be really, really good. But again, just not really for me because I'm so obsessed with protein, guys. It's like, it's funny, like I try to make clear, like as much as I hate the low fat, high carb dogma, as I've said, I know that there are people who really do well eating a more high carb, low fat diet, and they find that they're able to lose weight and keep it off, and that's awesome. Just like there are people on the other spectrum. I mean, there are people who do keto and have done it for a long time, and they're like, this is what helps me keep the weight off. But even still, people feel like I'm advocating for eating tons of protein and I'm obsessed with protein. It's like, no, I do think that a lot of people should be a little bit more concerned about their protein consumption and about their lysine consumption. And that's not just me. Again, you can read from registered dietitians like Jenny Messina and Jack Norris talking about this issue. I'll put links in the description. I think it is good to aim for like around 50 to 60 grams of protein. And I think if you are struggling with your weight and you're trying to lose weight and you've tried various things and it hasn't worked, if you haven't tried eating more protein, I do think that that's something that's worth trying, because studies have shown that protein is more satiating for a lot of people. Again, I'm not saying that there's any guarantee that that's going to work. There are other things as well. I mean, if you're eating a lot of protein, but you're also eating a lot of foods that are like hyper palatable and like really encourage you to overeat, then that may not work. Obviously, there are multiple different things that you can do to help yourself eat less calories. I'm not obsessed with protein. I'm not obsessed with mock meats. I just like them personally. And I like to review them because you guys are interested and you're interested in what I have to say about it. And it's fun. It's kind of nice to just get on camera and be like, I ate a pea-based sausage. Here's what I think about it. I mean, not many people get to say that that's their job. I don't know where this video is going at this point, so I think I'm just going to end it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Comments and questions down below. I said I'm going to stop. I obviously can't. If you want to subscribe, that's super cool. If you want to support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. Of course, thank you to all the patrons who do support the channel. It's super dope. And that's it. This is why you don't record at 10:30 on a Saturday night.